Sleep is one of the biggest and yet most underrated cheat codes to improving your dog's behavior. Most owners focus on more walks, more training, more socialization, more enrichment, but sometimes the answer is a lot simpler than you think. In today's world, we're constantly pushing our dogs to do more, when in reality, what a lot of them need is better sleep. So, today, I want to talk about how much sleep dogs should really be getting, what happens when they don't, and if you stick around all the way till the end of the video, I will give you my favorite way to improve sleep in dogs. But before we get into it, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Junior, behavior nerd and founder of Paws of Wisdom, where I help overwhelmed owners make sense of their chaotic and over-the-top dogs through a more regulation-first lens. And today, I want to talk about how much sleep our dogs should really be getting. Let's get into it. So let's start with the magic number, because there's a lot of conflicting information out there. You'll hear some people say 12 to 14 hours. You'll hear some people say 16. You'll hear 16 and 18. You'll hear pushing over 18 as well. And personally, I like the 16 to 18, but more so as a guideline and a buffer than an ultimatum. Although I think for puppies, they should be pushing on the 18 plus mark, just because of how crucial sleep is for that development so early on. I know 16, 18 hours a day can seem like a lot for some dogs, although there are probably a lot of dogs that will happily achieve that. Some dogs obviously will struggle to achieve that, and there's also a lot of dogs that can have less than that and function absolutely okay. I think of it a lot like human sleep. We recommended, I think the optimal time for sleep is like 8, 9 hours, but plenty of people, me included, function perfectly fine on like 6 hours. And you obviously get those that function better on less. And the same thing applies to dogs. I think a lot of dogs roughly hit about the 12 to 14, 12 to 16 mark. And honestly, these dogs function absolutely fine. The reason that I use 16 to 18 hours as that guideline, as that buffer, is not because I expect every single dog to be able to hit that. If you take a look at books that focus on sleep, like some of the best books that I've read that are on sleep, on human sleep, they're not always forcing you to try and hit the optimal time. They're not telling people you have to get 8, 9 hours of sleep, because we all lead different lifestyles. Sometimes getting that amount of sleep is easier said than done. But what these books do actually do is focus on improving the quality of the sleep that you are currently getting. And if by chance it manages to increase your sleep by an extra half an hour or an extra hour or more if you're lucky, that's just an added bonus. And I think that's a really helpful way to be looking at our dog's sleep routines. A lot of routines might not allow dogs to reach 16 to 18, those optimal hours right about now. But what we can do is improve the quality of the sleep, not just aim to improve the quantity. Not just because if we improve the quality of sleep, the quantity is a byproduct that will naturally start to increase at times, but also because it's really not just about how long your dog sleep. It's not about the quantity. It's not really about the numbers. It really boils down to the quality of that sleep. Like, I'd much rather see a dog get 12 hours of that deep, deep sleep where, like, not even an earthquake could wake them up than a dog that gets, let's say, 18 hours of sleep, but anytime there's movement, anytime there's a sound, they wake up. That shallow sleep. That's not the sleep that we want our dogs to be getting. We want that restorative rest. So what happens when they're not getting enough sleep, when they're not getting a high enough quality of sleep? At the start of the video, I said that sleep is one of the biggest cheat codes to improving behavior, and I really do stand by that. Sleep acts as a reset button for both the body and the nervous system. With enough quality sleep, stress, arousal, frustration, they start to drop down. The body can recover. You can take pressure off the joints. They get a chance to rest and recover as well. And the whole system regulates and it functions a bit more smoothly. And for puppies, sleep is especially important for their development. Sleep helps with their cognitive functions, their memory, how they learn, how they process things, along with helping them with their growth. And then for your working breeds, rest and recovery is essential because these dogs will keep going if you let them. And without proper rest, without proper recovery, that system doesn't get the chance to reset. Sleep also plays a huge part in mood and regulation and overall body function. Now, think about what happens when we don't get enough sleep, right? One night might be manageable. I mean, it might be manageable. For some people, they have one night bad sleep and the whole system disrupts into chaos. But for some people, we can manage one night of poor sleep. But on a consistent basis, mood starts to get disrupted. Our digestive system gets interrupted. The immune system gets interrupted. We become more stressed, more irritable, more frustrated at the smallest things. Our ability to focus drops, our ability to listen, our ability just to cope starts being affected from just a few nights of poor sleep. And the same exact thing happens with our dogs. When dogs are sleep deprived, learning becomes harder for them, listening becomes harder for them. The ability to cope becomes a lot harder for them, right? They're more easily overwhelmed, they're more irritable, they can become more reactive. And let's be honest, the dogs that don't sleep as much as they really should be during the day end up being the ones that get themselves into more trouble. That's usually in ways that we don't like at all. Over longer periods of time, chronic sleep deprivation can start affecting immune systems, the digestive system. It can start even affecting the mental capacity and the mental capability of our dogs as well. And that's why it's so important not only for dogs to get a reasonable amount of sleep during the day, but that it's a really good quality of sleep. Because when the body is rested and regulates properly, everything else is easier to manage. All right, if you've made it this far, here it is. This is my favorite way to improve sleep in dogs. But before we get into it, if you found this video useful, if you found this video helpful, then remember to hit that like button and also drop a comment below just letting me know how much sleep your dog roughly gets each day. It will obviously just help the channel grow, but it's more so for other owners to feel less alone if they're struggling with their dog's sleep. Now, My favorite way to improve your dog's sleep isn't just one trick. It's about creating the conditions that actually allow your dog to sleep. And for that to happen, a few things need to work together. Firstly, your dog needs a proper outlet, something that not only drains their energy properly as well, but something that alleviates frustration and tension in the body, something that provides them with a sense of fulfillment as well. A lot of us focus on walking our dogs more, yet for a lot of dogs, they don't get the benefit of the walk, right? It really isn't classed as an exercise for a lot of dogs because it's just so chaotic. They're constantly pulling on the leash, they're constantly reacting at everything, they're constantly in a heightened state. They can't enjoy the walk for what it is. This is why I think the majority of dogs should have an outlet. And then, secondly, we need to drain that mental energy. So, we need adequate mental stimulation. And I'm not talking about a lick mat or a Kong. They have their place in our dog's world and our dog's structure. But I'm talking about actual mental stimulation that challenges our dog, actual mental stimulation that makes them think, that problem solves, that drains that mental battery so that when it is time to shut off and sleep, their brain isn't running at 100 miles an hour. The third thing that I'd really recommend is a proper wind down routine. If you can have a wind down routine that transitions a dog from an energetic mode, right, after their walk, after any activity, you transition them down from, let's say, a level 8 all the way to a level 3. Once they get into that point, they're ready to sleep. A lot of us make the mistake that after activities, after walks, we just unclip the leash and let our dogs try to figure out how to sleep. And for many of them, this results in pacing back and forth, pestering for attention, keeping themselves preoccupied and resisting rest. But if we can give them a wind down routine that helps that transition, that incorporates decompression, that slows the system down, right? Just like you would when you come home from a long shift at work, you do some form of routine that gets you ready to just relax and sleep. It's the same concept here. This brings me on to the final point, which is your dog needs somewhere they can actually sleep. And by this, I don't mean on the sofa. And a lot of the times, I don't even mean in the same room that you're in. Don't get me wrong, you can obviously have them take naps in these areas, but I think what a lot of dogs are missing are a proper place that is away from you, away from the chaos, away from traffic, away from movement, and away from as much noise as possible. Somewhere they can go to actually shut off. I think a lot of these areas should be in other rooms, whether it's just a dog bed in another room, whether it's an actual bed in another room, or whether it's even a crate in another room, however you want to do it, having an area away from you, away from movement and away from chaos that actually allows a dog to shut themselves off and sleep is so beneficial. I think a lot of dogs fall asleep in living rooms, fall asleep on sofas, and I have no issue with that. But as I've been mentioning in this video, a huge factor of sleep is the quality of sleep. Yes, dogs are social animals and probably would like to sleep in the same vicinity as you, but let's not pretend that as soon as we get up, a majority of dogs aren't like,
"Ooh, where are you going? Can I come? Is it time to..."
That's not the restorative sleep that we're looking for. We want them to be able to shut off completely and just sleep. When you put all of this together, when you give your dog an outlet to burn that energy and release tension and frustration, when you provide them adequate mental stimulation through the day that brings down that mental chaos, as to say, that mental load, when you provide wind down routines after activities, when you also provide them somewhere proper to sleep, you can start improving the quality of their sleep. And over time, as I mentioned, the more you improve the quality of the sleep, quantity goes up on its own. Now, some dogs will still resist rest. You can do all the right things, and a lot of dogs still resist rest. And in those cases, we have to take it upon ourselves to enforce rest. And I mean this in a gentle way, more as in guidance than properly forcing. So this could be teaching your dog a place position. This could be crate training your dog. But more often than not, if you have a separate area where you are putting your dog away and they keep getting up and coming into the same room, then you gently guide them back into that area. Over time, they will start to realize that there is nothing going on at all. They can keep trying all they want, but they will keep getting put back. And on a long enough time scale, when you have your wind down routine and you finally put your dog away to sleep, they will stop resisting to actually sleep. They know there is nothing that is going to happen if they come out. It gets rid of that FOMO factor, as to speak. If your dog learns that this is my time to sleep, and every time I try to go out and do something, I get guided back in. Once your dog starts connecting those dots, and if you can keep it on a consistent enough routine, you will start to notice slow but steady changes. One of the best moments in this process is when your dog starts taking themselves to their sleeping area. That's the goal. For it not to just be something that we're forcing, but for it to start becoming a habit, for it to essentially become a way of life. Once your dog understands that after any big activity, when they go through that wind down routine, whatever time of the day, then it's time to get a little nap in, that's where you start winning. Your role is to be your dog's guide, because honestly, a lot of dogs are basically overgrown toddlers that just are resisting sleep at every single chance they get, even though we know that that's exactly what they need at that point in time. So there you have it. And before you go, if you want to learn more about improving your dog's sleep, regulation, the dangers of stress, and why your dog might behave the way that they do, I'll link the free Paws of Wisdom community down in the description below. As mentioned, it's a place for overwhelmed owners to learn and make sense of their more over-the-top and chaotic dogs through that regulation first lens. Inside, you'll find the Regulators Resource Vault, you'll find a deep dive library, you'll find a video vault, and a lot of other free and educational resources that help you understand what's going on underneath the chaos. But if you're ready to move on from understanding to action, you'll also find the Paws of Wisdom Detox protocol on there as well. That's my structured step-by-step system designed to help you reduce daily chaos, reset your dog's baseline, lower the unholy trinity, create better habits, routines, and structure, and finally just start creating real noticeable change. Finally, thanks for watching. If this has helped you understand your dog just a little bit more, then make sure to hit that like button, make sure to subscribe, and let me know down below in the comments what other things are you struggling with, what other topics would you like videos on next. But that covers today's video. Until next time, friend, I'll see you soon.